What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to another tutorial with your boy Keo Orion, the man who is obsessed with making great music and teaching you how to make your own. And in today's video, we're diving into the difference between FL and Ableton and why I recommend FL, the drawbacks in FL, and who I recommend it for. So let's jump into it. So in FL, I've been spending the last month or so really diving into FL, learning it more because I want to start teaching people how to use FL. And so I've taken a bunch of notes on what I think FL really excels at, and we'll start with those first. So the first thing that I think in FL that is incredible is their piano roll, right? This thing, especially compared to Ableton, I'd hate to compare them, but you have to, is just incredible. The way that you can come in here and you can get the precision with the notes, and then you can also, the fact that you can create rolls, like in terms of snares, hi-hats, different things, the programming, I just find it to be way easier in FL. And also, it's very it's just pretty, right? The notes, everything is here. It just feels like it's a little bit more fun to program in here. I have a lot more fun working in the piano roll in FL than I do in Ableton. Which brings me to another point where I think FL really excels, and that's in the channel rack. Excuse me. In the channel rack, I think one thing that's amazing about this is this is a really fun tool, and it can be, again, when you're making music, you want to be having fun. And so if it's too hard, it can be frustrating, and you can just come in here and start just like clicking around, making stuff. And that alone, I think, is worth a lot of points, because there's something we said for being able to just create drum loops really quickly. And I find one nice thing about a channel rack is it'll actually push me out of my comfort zone in creating drum loops. So in Ableton, I find, because in Ableton I use I put in the drums in terms of like I'll actually go in here and I'll add each little drum. So like every single snare I bring it, I just like working with audio, so everything's out in audio like this. That in FL, what's nice to do is just come in here, and I find that I can get different bops, different rhythms. It helps me kind of figure out things differently. And also these markers I find really fun to be able to do stuff with. Like you can just get in here and velocity and pitch, like it's a lot of fun. And so I think that having fun is something that is worth mentioning. And I do think that that's where FL does shine, is that it can be really fun if you get to know it well. Know it now. It took me a while, and sometimes it still feels a little bit clunky. And there are certain things that I don't love about it that is just part of the program, and it's maybe just because I'm so used to Ableton. But another thing, before I get to those, another thing that I really liked about FL are the built-in instruments and synths and effects. I actually think are pretty rad. Like I had a lot of fun playing around with different synths in FL and different effects in FL. There's a lot of stuff you can just kind of plug and play out the box that I thought was pretty rad. In Ableton, I use a lot of their built-in effects, but I almost never use their instruments. And by almost never, I mean actually never. The only things, I mean, I use their instruments, but it's things like the simpler, so that I can add in a sampler or a sample, or I'll use their sampler for stuff. Whereas in FL, they actually had some pretty cool sounds and stuff in here that I was impressed by. And I think that is a huge bonus if you're going to buy the program, because then you don't have to buy all the other things that go along with it, like new plugins and things of that nature, which I always talk about in Ableton. That out the box, it's all right, but you really kind of need other fun stuff to really, in my opinion, bring out the best in it. Which brings me to another plus to FL, which is the price point. I think it's actually very affordable. I think it is a DAW that you can afford, whereas Ableton can be expensive, especially right out of the box. So those are the things that I think are great about FL. In terms of drawbacks, the warping, I struggle with the warping in here when it came to Slice X. That I think this is a cool warper and slicer, but it just took Again, you can add the regions like you can in Ableton too, but actually another plus in here that I just thought of. I really do like the fact that you can declick in and declick out. That's a really cool feature about SliceX that I actually do love. But in terms of the overall usability and stuff, I just felt it a lot easier to warp in Ableton than I did in SliceX or Fruity Slicer. And I also don't love all of the different windows. I find like I just get overwhelmed sometimes. Like I have my mixer channel up and then I've got Fruity Slicer in the channel. I feel like I'm trying to like wade back to my playlist, and it's like all these things that would just be cool to have if they were like smaller windows over here. Again, that's where I think Ableton can really shine, is you always have kind of everything you need like right here, right? You're still here in the playlist, you aren't going anywhere, but you still have maybe your audio down here if you want to mess with it, and your effects and other things down here that I don't feel like I'm like constantly trying to like come back to my main window like I do when I'm making beats in FL. Another one is the learning curve. It took me a long, I felt like Ableton, because it was just me, I feel like I could, as soon as I started playing around with it, I felt like I just intuitively, it made sense. The whole tools thing for me can be really frustrating. I like just having a pointer. If I need to do stuff, like I can come in here, I can grab it and kind of do what I need to do. And it has the fades, and I can, come in here and maybe I want to chop some of it, right? I can just chop and duplicate it, or I don't want it, I can just delete it, like little things. And I know you can do that in FL. Like you can make something and you can delete it like that, or come in and like select parts of it. But like I don't like having to like go to the blade tool and cut it and then come back to the select tool. And so that part for me was, I felt limited in that regard in the learning curve of FL, of having all these different tools rather than just kind of a universal pointer with hotkeys that then I can just kind of control everything with at the same time. So, who is FL better for? I think FL is better for the beginning producers out there. If you're just getting started, I think FL is the way to go because it's cheaper. It can be easy to just jump in here, load up a channel rack, load up some drums, plug and play, and then build out your loops like that. I think that for beginning producers, I think it can be a lot of fun. People with, like I said, people without a big budget, that price point is really huge. If you're just getting into production, you don't want to invest a lot of money. It can be a nice way to kind of dabble in it without having to go all the way in, balls to the wall. Last but not least, I think, again, people who like working with loops, if you like playing in instruments, if you like playing in different synths and keys and pads and all these sorts of things, I think it can be great for that, because you can jump in this channel rack, record something quickly in here, and then from this quick 4-bar loop, you build out your entire beat pretty quickly. So that's why I think people can make beats so fast in FL, because you just, you play some keys into here and whatever, and then you're off to the races. Boom, boom, boom. You can click things in. You go boom, fill each 4 steps. It's just the quickness that you can make things, especially drum loops and patterns, I think is really powerful in FL. So those are the people that I recommend it to. It's still not my favorite. I still do feel limited because I'm an Ableton stan. But if you're caught between the two, I'd say try them both. They both have a free trial. See which one you like more, which fits better kind of with your mentality, because it's kind of two different approaches. But you can get to the same place with both incredible softwares. But if you want to learn more about music production, actually how to make beats, check out the description below. Beat School Online. I have all my courses on there, coaching, sample packs, everything to help you level up as a producer. Thank you for tuning in as always, and I'll check you on the next one. Peace.